Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our new guest hosts, Maliha, and she comes to us from a background in project management. And Maliha, if you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll go back in time and ask you a little bit more about what you were as a kid. So what are you doing now?
Yeah, so currently, hi, everyone. So as Luki mentioned, my name is Maliha Omar. I am currently a project manager at one of the leading software solution provider and e-commerce platforms provider for the automotive industry here in Dubai. So this is what I do. I'm in project management. I've been in project management for almost 5 years now. And that's what I do currently. And I also post weekly career growth content on LinkedIn and inspirational posts. So weekly content, basically a content creator on LinkedIn, but on a weekly basis.
Sounds good. So if we can go back in time and talk about Maliha as a kid. So what were you like growing up? What are some of the early fond memories that you have? And you're recording from Kenya, and I understand that that's where you grew up. So tell us a little bit more about Maliha as a kid.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Mombasa, Kenya. So Mombasa is the coastal region. It's the second largest city in Kenya. So I was born here, raised here. And me as a kid, I was studious. So I used to study a lot. And I used to feel like education was my escape gate. And I would find, I would try to escape through education as a kid, because I would find it's more of a safe place for me. So I loved studying at school, and when I come back home, I'd always focus on my studies. So my priority was more of education, which is a bit unlike all the girls, most of the girls, I would say, in my community here in Mombasa, Kenya, because the girls here, it's more of education is not a priority for girls, and also success for a woman is more of marriage. So this is what I grew up seeing. So all the girls around me, it's especially in my family, it's extended family, I would say. And when I talk about extended family, it's like more than 40 cousins, I would say. Okay. And all the girls, it's like they wouldn't focus on education. So for me, seeing that, I had a different perspective on that. So I wanted to be different. I wanted to focus on education and work hard on my, education. And how I knew I would succeed, that is working hard and, excelling in my studies. So because it's not a priority, so I had to prove myself that, okay, this is what I want. And how do I do that? Is by studying a lot and getting good grades, so that I can go back to my mom, my parents, and say, okay, this is what the good grades I'm getting, so this is what I want. Right. So it was very important for me to get those good grades, and to do that, I had to work hard and study a lot.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about some of those influences. So if everybody around you is really not focusing on school and studying, and they're, to your point, success is really just getting married, is kind of the mindset. But what about education, or how did you get that instilled to you that, what, if I study, if I get good marks, then that is my path to success? And what was different about kind of your mindset? So if did it come from your parents? Did it come from a conversation with a cousin or somewhere, or do you know where that came from?
I think it's seeing what girls go through in my community. And things have changed, definitely changing now. But back then, when I was growing up, my mom, she's never gone to school. So it's more of, for her, it was more of being at home and, taking care of her kids. And for me, I wanted to be independent. So my goal was that, I just don't want to be someone I would depend on someone else, dependent on someone else. So how would you do that? How would you become independent in your life? Or how would you become, like someone that you can, have an influence or inspire other people. So for me, it was more of being independent. And that was like my goal in life. And how do I become that is by, focusing on my studies, studying, going for my higher education, and then, having my own career.
Mhm.
So this was something that, I wanted to focus on. And that was my main goal. And also, like just being a role model to the girls. I wish at that time I had, someone I would look up to. So like a girl or anyone, like I remember when I used to be in high school, there would be these girls who would come to school who had like studied in Malaysia or studied in the UK. So when they would come to our school and talk to us, I would see them and be like, okay, one day I want to, go abroad and or go for my higher studies.
Mhm.
So that was like my motivation, to, pursue. And at that time when I was in high school, I would have never thought that I would, study abroad for higher studies. Not, I mean, study in Kenya for higher studies, let alone going abroad. And yeah, I am.
Right.
I've been abroad for higher studies, and let alone not just in Kenya. So I think having people to look up to, and that is motivation, and what you want to achieve in your life. I think that is something that can push you forward and get what you want.
For sure. And how did you deal with some of the I guess the environment around you? Because everybody's set up to, well, you're not supposed to study, you're supposed to stay and just get married and have kids and all that sort of stuff. What kept you strong in order to kind of keep that momentum? Because it sounds like that you had a couple of good models in terms of, well, the folks that came back from studying abroad and they presented at high school. So you had a couple of those. But what else helped you keep your mindset strong so that you could kind of continue down that path?
I think my mom. So like my mother was my biggest support system. So I remember when I finished high school at that time. So that was it. Like, so most of the girls in my community would be like, okay, you finish high school, that's it. You get married and, go on, live your life, raising your kids and taking care of your husband. But at that time, when I finished high school, I remember I told my mom that I wanted to go for my higher studies. And my mom told me, yes, then go for it. So, and when when she would, as parents, you get to listen to, other family members or other relatives that, okay, now your child is or your daughter is old enough to get married. Why don't you, look for that and, be ready for that and do it.
Right.
But I remember my mom, when I told my mom, actually, this is not what I want, and I want to go for my higher studies. She, supported me. And I think it's very important is to get a support system or to get someone to support you throughout. You cannot do anything alone. I don't think there's any of us in this world that has done something, great alone. I feel like everything that we do in life is, you either get support from your parents or someone else or a stranger who guides you and, mentors you and, doing great things in life. So I think for me, if it wasn't for my mom, then I don't think I would have been where I am today. So during that time, she supported me. If she told me, okay, I'm not going to support you, you need to do this, then I would have gone in another way. So I think I'm glad and I'm blessed to have a mom that during that time supported me for my higher studies.
For sure. Anybody out there with supportive parents are definitely blessed. and it's great when you have that. So if you go back in time and think about, so now you're in high school, you have kind of your mom's blessing to go abroad. How did you decide like the school to go to or the program to study? How did you end up picking up your area of interest? Because you ultimately landed into project management, but that's not usually like the norm, right? Usually it's kind of like doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer, that sort of thing. But how did you make your way from kind of choosing a school and then eventually getting to project management?
Yeah, so I remember during that time, everyone would tell me to get into medicine.
Okay.
It's like, oh, I passed with flying colors, I got A's and all that. Why don't you do medicine? And also for me, my interest was also in actuarial science.
Okay.
So, but then actuarial science, I had to go to Nairobi in Kenya. And here in Kenya, like in Nairobi, I didn't have anyone, as a godfather, I would say. So my mom wasn't really keen for me to go to Nairobi at that time. So everyone was like, do medicine, but that's not what I wanted.
Sure.
I can't see blood. I would faint. So that was not an option for me. And just because, I passed with flying colors and I'm able to do that doesn't mean that this is my path I want to take. So
sure.
I said no to medicine. At that time, and surprisingly, when I was in high school, I was supposed to choose between home science, one of the subjects, and business. And without thinking, I wanted to choose home science because I didn't think that business was something that I would do or that I liked studying for. So at that time, that wasn't even an option for me to choose business. So when I finished high school, my uncle lives in Dubai at that time, lived in Dubai. So he asked me if he had that there were opportunities for top students in Kenya to be granted academic excellence scholarship to study in UAE. Dubai, it's the university called United Arab Emirates University. So at that time, I just checked with my principal in school, and they said, yeah, it's possible and all that, and said you can apply for that. So I applied for that, and suddenly within 2 months I was called in, and it was like, congratulations, you got an full academic scholarship to go study at one of the top universities in the Gulf region. Nice. So at that time I was like, what? And I remember before that I was so worried about me going for my higher studies. Where will I be? Because also going abroad was too expensive at that time. Right. So what will happen about that? And what am I going to study? So these thoughts came in, and I remember I would cry every day to my mom, and I would be like, oh my God, what am I going to do when I want to go for higher studies? I don't know how that's going to happen, but this is what I want to do, and I feel like that's not going to happen. And I remember my mom would be like, don't worry, as long as that's your goal, that will happen. Just focus on your prayers, and that will happen. So my mom is very religious, by the way. Yeah. So she used to tell me all that, and then I applied. And then I got into, and then I had to choose the subjects that I'd get into. And I loved math. So I used to love math in school, in primary school. Numbers, anything to do with numbers, any problem solving, I used to love it. And when I was given the choice of choosing either engineering or any business, humanities and all that, I just fell in love with finance and banking. So I was like, I'll go ahead with this. So I really liked finance and banking when I read about it, and I said, okay, let me try this. And that's how I got into my degree.
Sounds good. And throughout that career, so you're getting educated now, and then what was the path to kind of land that first job? Was it an easy one? Was it a difficult one, or what was that path to land that job after graduation?
I think is a lot of patience. Okay. I think what people think, especially recent graduates, is when you're about to graduate, is that okay, that's it. I just want to graduate and my life is done, Okay. And then I'll get a job and I'll be independent. That was what I was thinking. So for me, when I started uni and throughout my university life, I was like, okay, I just want to graduate. That was my end goal. Once I graduate, I'll be the happiest person. I'll be independent. I'll do all this. Sure. But then I never thought of the struggle of finding a job.
Right.
So that was when I completed my studies. And it was during that time I was looking for a job, when I stayed like almost 1 year, 4 months finding a job.
Okay.
And oh my God, at that time, I think a lot of patience, a lot of positivity is important.
Right.
Because sometimes you'll be like, I'm not gonna get a job.
Right.
With all, you keep on applying, and you keep on, and sometimes you would get a job, and that is not something that you would like, because your focus is, or your goal is to find something that is specific to yourself, whether it's the salary range, whether it's the role itself. So those are the things that I would, keep on, getting frustrated about. I would say you get frustrated when you're, looking for a job. I mean, I'm sure it's for all the job seekers. And it's okay sometimes to get frustrated. And, because that's how you, or if you want to cry, like, let's say, oh, you want to feel down, it's okay. You go through that. Then the second day, wake up and, look for something, look for a job, start looking for a job. If you need 1 day break, take it. I remember at that time I took like a 1 month break. I was like, I'm done with job seeking.
Okay.
That's it. So I took like a whole month of just focusing on myself, or, making myself happy, not worrying about finding a job. So I think that's important. When you come back, it's like you come back from your break, or whether it's a 1 week, 1 day, or a month, if you need it, you come back stronger and you start applying and, focusing on what you really want and getting what you really want. So I think it's a lot of patience, a lot of positivity, a lot of, just reading a lot in terms of, applying. So applying a lot. Don't just, and also I would say apply for, even that's something that you feel like you're not interested in, or something that you will not get, just apply to it, especially as a recent graduate. So for me, because I remember when I applied for this project support role, I remember it was my last day of my internship at that time. And then I found just this job posting, project support. I read about it. I was like, that was like, I think my first time reading about something to do with projects. I've never applied for a project role before. It was only about finance, banking, all this sorts of stuff. So when I saw about project support, I read about it. I was like, okay, something challenging, something, communication and all that. I was like, okay. And then I read their project support. I went to Google. I was like, what do project supports do? So I went through that. And what's the career growth for a project support? So it's project support, junior project manager, then project manager, and then you get into program and all that. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Let me just apply to this. So I wanted to know more about it. When I knew more about it, I was like, okay, this is something that, I'd be interested in. So I applied, and I remember within 10 minutes, I get a call from my boss.
Okay.
Oh, you applied for this position. And at that time, I had applied for so many things that when she told me, the good thing is she called me within 10 minutes. If she called me the next day, I'd be like, I don't remember what that was. Right. But it's just like everything that has been planned in 10 minutes. And like, oh yeah, I applied for that. And it's about this and about that. And she's like, yes. So come for an interview tomorrow. So that was my last day of internship. It was like a 6-month internship as a financial analyst. Mm-hmm. And then the second day is when I went to my interview for the full-time job. So yeah.
Yeah. So things kind of work out according to plan. Story. Yeah, I think that's amazing. So,
yes.
So now you're one of the first girls to have kind of graduated and studied abroad, and you're project management, enjoying your career, and now you're turning into kind of like the motivational space where you're trying to empower girls and other folks, right, to kind of reach their potential and think beyond that. So, what would you say are some of the SIWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier, that you would share with a younger Maliha, with those other younger folks out there? What are some of the stuff that you've learned that you'd want to share?
Yeah, so I think one thing is do not worry, and that God has it all planned. Okay. And for those who don't believe in God, I would say just destiny. Just don't worry that whatever happens is within your, destiny. So, getting worried won't solve the problem, or getting worried won't make you have the thing that you want. It's just going to make you feel more miserable. Just don't worry. Do your best, work hard, plan whatever you want to plan, and leave everything to whoever is going to help you do it, or the outcome of it. So just don't worry about life too much. So that is one of the things that I wish I knew earlier. The other thing is, this is for more of university students. Mm-hmm. Whoever is in university currently is, don't worry too much about your studies, whether how many GPA you're getting and all that. Because I remember I used to worry a lot about that. So make friends, get into extracurricular activities. If you have to go to conferences, go ahead and do it. Network a lot.
Right.
So these things don't just focus on your GPA. When you finish university, you'll understand that, getting a 2.1, 2.9 GPA doesn't make a person less, uh, less fortunate to get a job than a person who got a 4 GPA or a 3.9 GPA.
Sure.
It's kind of all the same, to be honest, as long as you've networked a lot, as long as you show your leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
So I think leadership skills is very important. Nurture that when you are in university. So I think that's the second thing.
Yeah, definitely some good advice. What comes to mind is there's a quote that I like. Worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere, right? So to your point, like the worrying is not helpful. Do something about it instead of spending your time worrying. And then the part about university and not worrying so much about studies. I like the quote by Mark Twain who says, "Don't let school get in the way of education." Right? Because you often learn more when you're doing those extracurriculars, those student clubs, those whatever, because that you're in kind of a more real world environment. You're dealing with people instead of just an academic test. And nobody really graduates and ends up getting a job taking tests, right? So those tests are only partially indicative. But I think that's a lot of amazing advice. So for yourself, given that you're trying to get more into the inspirational field, what are some of the future aspirations? And then if folks want to get in contact with you, how could they reach out and get connected with you?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you, Luki.
So for those that are interested in connecting with you, how could they reach out? And what are some of the future aspirations that we might look forward to hearing from you?
Okay, so anyone who wants to connect can connect with me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Maliha Omar, which is MALIHA OMAR. So they can reach out there to me. And for me, my future aspirations is to just help people, influence, be an inspirational to people. So whether it's having a big role in the corporate world or any other kind of role that I would have is focused on helping people. So that's my future aspirations. Add value. I think that's very important. When you die or when you're not here anymore, it's like you've helped someone, you've made someone feel good. So those are my future aspirations, I would say, to be honest.
That's amazing. So hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode so we can dive a little bit more deeper into parts of your story and part of that kind of inspirational piece, and then probably sharing some of your words of wisdom and mindset in order to help other folks, young girls or whomever in the world to become a little bit better versions of themselves and really unlock and reach their potential. So thanks so much, Maliha, for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
Thank you so much, Luki. Thanks for hosting me and asking me for this podcast. It's amazing, and I appreciate everything that you do for people. So thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Lukidanu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.